was in our old apartments, and all apartments previously, actually, I would just have like a cutting board in the kitchen that I would prop up on a bunch of things and just like stand up and work there. So
Wow, really? Damn.
yeah, it's pretty swell. Do you have a studio? It looks
Yep,
like
this is it. I'm in it. This is my.
that's not like a corner of the bedroom.
No, this is a room. We have a house. We have like a guest room in our bedroom, and then this room here is my studio. I just sit and work in the daytime.
It's really nice. This is a first for me. It's really cool to have a space where you can shut the door. Maybe if your life is not very centered around, and mine's like really not, it's really nice to shut the door and be like, okay, I'm going into this whole other physical space and headspace now.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a nice clean break.
Yeah, it was necessary during the pandemic, because Amy was working at home, and I needed a door that could close. I can't, like I love Amy, but like you can't be around each other all the time. You need space. So
yeah, definitely.
I definitely appreciated being able to just be like, I'm going in here and I'll see you in 8 hours. Let me close this door.
I feel that if I could have like a separate bedroom for myself, I would. I like having that. I like that thing where people have like separate apartments in the same building or something. That would totally be me.
Do you still draw on paper, or do you use a Wacom?
No, really recently I switched over to doing pretty much everything in Procreate, just because I started getting illustration work. And I was like, I gotta start cranking this out faster. And also people would say things like, that's cool, can you send me over the vectors? And I was like, woo, I gotta scan it and do vectorizing. So actually doing it digitally, streamline that, and I can produce comics a lot faster. I'm not quite as pleased, but I don't know, I feel like in adulthood and parenting and working and stuff, the whole name of the game is just like, how much can I compromise on this to, like,
yeah,
oh, it's a frozen pizza, but it's like pretty good, I'll do that instead of, and I can shave a couple bucks off.
uh-huh.
I think I can, it seems like a pretty good, exchange, because I can crank them out at least twice as fast and be able to shift it so that it works on Instagram and works on paper and things like that.
Do you sell your original artwork?
I have, no one's ever been like beating down the door for it. If someone messages me and it's like, hey, I really want this one piece, I'll usually sell it to them for whatever seems reasonable. And I've done a couple of gallery shows that sold well, but yeah, again, and I don't like looking at my old originals because, if you're like doing your job and evolving, you hate your stuff from 6 months ago. So I don't even like want to sell it to someone for money that they've earned doing a job. So I don't feel like it's too much of a loss if there's not an original anymore.
Yeah. You've been in Louisiana for 9 years?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we were living in Queens. We'd just gotten married and I got knocked up, and it was sort of like, okay, so we can move to New Jersey, or we can, and try to still be New Yorkers, or we could just completely leave the state. And I'd already visited his folks down here a bunch and loved it. So it made sense to move and get a house. And I mean, I know people do raise kids in New York and good for them, but I wasn't about to try that.
Right,
I've helped enough people get like strollers up and down these stairs, and it's been great. I'm very happy we did this.
Yeah, it's spooky down there, isn't it?
It's spooky, for sure.
Yeah, I want to visit. I've never been there before.
You should. Well, come stay. We've got a room.
The other night, Amy woke me up in the middle of the night, and she's like, I just feel something crawling on me. Like, and
No, yeah.
I was like, whatever. Because like sometimes when seasons change, like, she'll get like itchy skin or whatever. So I'm just like, whatever. It's like, 2:00 in the morning, I was asleep. And she turned on the light, and there was a giant fucking cockroach crawling around our bed. This is something I bought just to mess with my partner, Amy. After the cockroach in the bed incident, was I got a bag of these fake cockroaches.
My son has one of those.
Yeah. She doesn't know that I have like a whole bag of them, because I just took one and I put it like on the bed, and then I just like screaming. Yeah. And then I kept playing the prank with her. And I kept putting it in different places, and then finally I was like, okay, I'll get rid of it, I promise. Like, I'll get rid of it, and I threw it away. But she doesn't know I actually had like a bag full. So I'm going to keep...
So I'm sorry if I seem off. I'm like, can't calm down. My, one of my chickens, I'm sorry.
What the fuck?
I should have told you before I picked up the dead chicken and told you. But
It's a
right as
dead
the
chicken?
roofers were leaving, they're like, hey, you know, thanks for the waters, blah, blah. By the way, you know one of your chickens did, right? I've just been like carrying her around for the past 15 minutes.
What is going on, Kate? What is?
I know. I can't figure out what it was either. Because I just was out there this morning playing with them and they seemed fine. She doesn't have any injuries. So here, you want to see? She's really
Why? Well, why are you
cool.
carrying her around?
Well, because I guess I don't really want to bury her, and I don't want. I like her a lot. I put her down on the floor, and then I felt bad, and then I want to put her in my bed, but she's kind of dirty, and I couldn't decide, so I was just holding her for, like, you know, while I was setting up for this, and then.
You're a ghoul. You just.
No, I would be a ghoul if I'd put her down like in the dirt, like a normal person would do. I'm a loving.
Carrying around a corpse.
Look,
You
so
do
beautiful.
drawings of things being chopped up.
Don't say that. Do I have some here? Like, just bird wings are really easy to do. You can do it with basically just salt and borax.
Really?
Without having to like stuff it. And then I make these little like assemblages with, you know, like a whole circle full of bird wings and stuff. There's a blue jay wing. It's super easy and it takes like 5 minutes. And there's no reason it should have to get nasty unless it, I don't know, it gets really humid or something.
But where do you get the blue jay from that you?
Oh, I take a lot of walks, you know, especially now that with coronavirus going on, I'm just trying to get the kids out of the house, you know, so I'll be jogging or walking with the kids. Like,
Have you finished any drawings today?
yeah, I did some more of those pages from the harm reduction series. So about like how to store your naloxone, the medication you give someone if they're overdosing.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, if you leave it in the glove box, it breaks down.
Yeah.
Things like that. Hot tips.
Yeah. When did you start doing that?
Let's see, probably about like 4 months ago, something like that. Yeah, someone in my family was, in my extended family was up against some addiction stuff. And then, yeah, what else brought that on though? And a friend of mine was volunteering in a needle exchange. I don't know. I guess like the more I saw some posts about the harm reduction model, which is like, you know, if you're going to do something that's, you know, very risky, how are you going to manage that risk? And I don't know, I was thinking about like, there was a time when I used a lot of drugs really dangerously, and it like, I never would have even entered the headspace of like, let me enter that like cost benefit analysis of like, how much harm could I shave off of this experience and still get most of what I want out of it? You know, like with the frozen pizza, like, could I do this? Could I blow this instead of shooting it or something like that? Or how could I find a safer, cleaner place? And it felt like even just like having that fundamental shift of thought would be a big deal, as opposed to just whatever happens, would be a huge deal in terms of like changing how you were thinking and the choices you were making and direction you were headed in, if you were an active user. So it made me kind of want to do something to help with that. And then kind of at the same time, the nonprofit I started had its funding cut because of coronavirus. We'd partnered with another nonprofit who provided, I'd finally been like, look, I can't fundraise or write grants anymore. Like, I've got other jobs going on. So I'd hooked up with another nonprofit that was going to fund us. And then they had that whole branch shut down because of coronavirus. So yeah, again, I was like, I got to do something, you know, besides just be a consumer and, you know, pursuing the stuff that's going to be fun for me out of life. And that felt like a way I could contribute based on a strength I actually had. Running a nonprofit was, and doing the workshop series I did and stuff was I think it helped a lot of people, but it was always like way outside my comfort zone, like, oh, great, I can go do this networking thing and a speaking engagement and shake down, these people do a public-private partnership. And there's just a lot of stuff that like, I was able to do it successfully, but only by like, sort of dying in the process.
Yeah.
And that doing something, illustrating a self-harm infocomic felt like something where I could actually draw on something I'm pretty good at and enjoy doing, and do something helpful, hopefully helpful for someone.
Are you introverted?
Yeah, I would say honestly, I'm socially like anxious. And I feel like a lot of people, I'm saying this because I feel like a lot of people are like, if I get on social media, I see a lot of like, are you a secret introvert? Do you sometimes go to a party and not know who to talk to? Things like that. And I'm like, see, I don't know if that's me. I think I talk too much to be an introvert, but I do get nervous, like having to meet new people and talk to people and stuff. I super miss the cons, but I definitely would be like sweating my way through all of them.
Yeah, you really know. But like when you were tabling at SPX and selling your comics, when somebody walk up to your table, were you nervous to talk to them about your work? Were you anxious, I mean?
No, not if I was pitching to them, but if they came over and were like, I really like your work, blah, blah, this has meant something to me, then I'd get extremely flustered.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's always a complicated relationship with compliments, you really, really want them, and then, when you get them and you don't know what to do with them.
What book are you working on now? Are you doing another book for Fantagraphics?
Not that I know of. I've got, so I'm working on the harm reduction guide, and I'm starting a children's science picture book that I'm going to try pitching. Both because I worked in a children's bookstore for a long time and I know a lot about children's books, and I still read tons of children's science books. It's really, really fun to me. I'm reading one right now about horseshoe crabs. And I think it would just be like a fun way to make money. Probably not much, but equivalent to what I'm making now doing marketing, and doing something that's like enjoyable and doesn't make the world worse, and that kind of suits my strengths. So I'm kind of putting together a little pitch for that. Then I've got a couple of ideas for a book I want to make for me that I may pitch to Fantagraphics if it turns out to be like looking like something that'd be in their wheelhouse. But that project's going to be like so odd. I want to get some steam going on the like usable projects that'll probably find some traction in the world and could potentially sell, and then have as much space as I want to do my own thing completely on my own terms. And it's a stupid time to be doing that, If I were a publisher, I would only want to do, the kind of things where you can at least make your money back. Has got to be a bad time for like experimental and weird comics.
Yeah, I worry about that too.
Especially from less established people. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I'm not really, I'm like, man, maybe I should try and help my publishers by really putting thought into what kind of audiences there are for my work.
They want.
Yeah, instead of just being like, well, I feel like doing this now. I think I'm going to do that. Like, I should think about like, because I don't think about any of that stuff. I just go like, I'm going to do a collection of just like a goofy autobio newspaper comics or whatever. That sounds great.
That sounds great.
But Fantagraphics is just going to eat their shirt on it.
Well, that's really the thing. Like, I'm pretty sure my book, because it's sort of a novelty type piece that has got to be a very niche sort of readership. Pretty sure that one wasn't too much of a money maker for them.
Well,
and it only, yeah?
I think it probably did pretty well.
That would be good. I have not seen any numbers. I don't know how big the print run is. And anytime I would ask Gary, like, oh, Gary isn't selling well. And you're like, it's fine. Don't worry.
Why don't we ask him? We got Gary right here. No, I'm just kidding. Come on in, Gary.
You're not mad at me.
I would love to do that sometime. Just have Gary in the waiting room here. And then talk to somebody and be like, well, why don't we ask him? Come on in. Welcome, Gary. Yeah. When I was working on the Hypo, my first book, I like brought him the self-published version of it at SPX, and I was like, hey, hello, like, you know, I'm a no events guy, I'm a cartoonist. This is my graphic novel I'm working on. Like, I want you to look at it. And I gave it to him. He's like, oh, thanks. I can't wait to read it. I'll look at it like on the airplane ride home or whatever. Yep. And then I followed up with an email like a month later. He didn't even know like, what? I gave you a graphic novel at SPX. I was wondering. Like, I'm sure it just like went into a box underneath their table with like all the media.
Well, you know, I had something maybe sort of similar because after a few issues, Gary emailed me. He's like, hey, this is great. I love it. And I wrote back. I'm like, that's awesome. I don't have a publisher yet. You know, blah, 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 you know, and he just never wrote back. And I followed up a couple times and I'm like, hey, just wanted to say thanks. How you doing? Blah, blah, blah. And then finally I went to it, you know, I was like, all right, that ship sailed. So I, you know, went and got a couple of other smaller publishers who were interested. And then I was talking to Sophie Goldstein, yeah, you know her. And she's wonderful because she just talks turkey in a way that, you know, and is so frank. She's like, you just email him a couple more times. Sophie, if I was approaching someone like to ask them out, you know, and 2 times they had, you know, not returned my text, I would know it was time to move on. She's like, no, just wear him down, or he's bad at communication or something. But yeah, there was definitely like a very drawn out, uncomfortable silence.
Wait, so what happened? Did you email him back and then he finally...
I did, and he was like, oh yeah, sorry, oh my bad, I dropped the ball. Yes, definitely want to publish that.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. Marie, she hadn't told me, you know, encouraged me, because I was feeling like a creep already, you know, at that point with like that level of pestering. Yeah, if she hadn't encouraged me, I probably wouldn't have followed up at that point.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then when you got that contract in the mail, were you like, oh, like super excited? Like it says Fantagraphics and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. Sorry, I want to not be like, you know, that enthused about it, but I totally was.
Yeah.
Like Peanuts dance, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's exciting because if you're in comics, like Fantagraphics and Drawn a Quarterly are like the two big comics. They publish like all the cool shit, and they both have long histories.
Yeah, well, that was the big deal. Why it was a big deal for me, not just because, you know, I like the books they put out, or, you know, this or that or the other thing, or their reach, but like because I never gave comics the time of day. It was just, you know, these like adolescent male power fantasies that were just so bizarre that this is actually a form of media. And then my sister read Archie, so zero interest. And then I saw some Fantagraphics stuff, and it was, I mean, I'd seen some Zap comics, and I was excited about those, and like maybe a Dark Horse thing that I was excited about, but I wasn't really aware that there was. And I was reading, like, there was Edward Gorey and, you know, Gan Wilson and other stuff like that like might be, you know, on your parents' bookshelf or something, but I wasn't seeing those kind of like, I don't know, crazy youth culture, like out there sort of stuff in comics film at all until I encountered Fantagraphics, and I started trying to do my own right after that. So it was a big deal for me to close that circle. Yeah, I was reading 8-Ball from the very beginning. I totally, like, that was my idea of like what comics should be and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah.
Were you a punk rock kid? Like, what was your scene?
I don't think I was in a scene, but yeah, probably like the drug kids.
Okay.
Whatever settles to the bottom when you shake the jar.
We were just like hanging out like in the grass, like at school.
Yes, precisely. Yep.
That's cool. I was
Yeah,
just
I dressed punk, but I wasn't like, part of it or anything.
yeah.
And when I say punk, there was no like Hot Topic or internet. So if you wanted to dress punk, you would like make your own punk clothes.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, handcrafted punk stuff.
Yeah, I was like like every kid when I was a teenager had the Misfits shirt and the Ramones logo shirt. So
Yeah.
everybody had that fucking shirt. It's like those two shirts. I think it's because Hot Topic started like mass producing them. So
Yeah, I aged out right before Hot Topic came along, but I would like make my own punk shirts out of like my dad's undershirts, and then I would draw on them with Sharpie like names and logos of bands I liked.
yeah. You know what?
I also made comics shirts too because I wanted like an 8-ball shirt, but there was no 8-ball shirt, so I would like draw it with Sharpie.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
had
did.
an Acme novelty t-shirt I made with Sharpie and stuff like that.
How did it look? Did it look like Chris Ware drew it?
Looked like Chris Ware did it. This chicken's just lying here. I don't feel good about this. I'm gonna put her on a chair. Hold on.
Do you eat meat?
I do. I feel bad about that. I feel really bad about it, but I was vegetarian for a long time, like almost a decade. And I never stopped being like, oh man, I want a cheeseburger, And everyone I talk to who's vegetarian long term just doesn't like meat. So I'm like, well, that's very good for you, But yeah, I do.
Yeah, I was raised vegetarian, and we'd march and like PETA marches and all this stuff.
Wow.
And when I was going through puberty, like I remember seeing a Burger King commercial, and there was like a Whopper on the TV, and I had this crazy urge. Like I didn't even know what it would taste like, but I was just like, I must have that burger. Like it was like such a strong urge that my mom, I think, just was like, okay, fine, like we can stop this foolishness, and that was it for me. But it's like I must have needed that, that kind of.
Yeah. I remember when I finally broke down, I was pregnant with my first kid, and we were watching the movie adaptation of Name of the Rose. I don't know if you've seen that one. Yeah. Okay. Well, it's really good. I heard the book's better, but whatever. And there's a part where one of the monks gets one of the I guess she's a whore, just a local peasant woman, to sleep with him in the barn. And in exchange, he gives her like an ox heart because, they don't have access to meat. And so, at the end of this scene, he throws this big bluish, blackish red heart down in the straw. And I was like, oh, I want that like right now. Then I hadn't had meat in a long time. And I immediately went to the farmer's market and I was like, I need organ meat. I went home with a kidney, like a sheep kidney.
And you ate it?
Well, I mean, I cooked it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's like an orientation because my oldest kid does not care for meat in the slightest. It grosses him out, even like bacon. But my younger kids are all up on it. And my partner is vegan, actually. And he has been for at least 15 years. I feel like you have to make set up the optimal environment and headspace and stuff like that for it. At least I do. Some people can just turn it on and off really quickly. I'll have to kind of transition, which is why having a studio is really nice. You close the door and it's got all your creepy cat skulls and your favorite books and stuff like that. And you just get to just inhabit that mental place. It's really conducive for, I don't know, just like being present for whatever you make.
Yeah, but how do you come up with the stuff that you draw? Like, how does that, I don't even understand how that kind of thing presents itself to you. Like, is it just like you'll be looking through a science book and see a picture of an animal and then you start thinking about how that animal could transform into something else, or like I don't even understand the process for your work.
Sometimes if I like something or something's compelling for me, I'm like, what if this was different in some way? If it was different, how would it be different? Or other times I'll have a thought and then I'll try to find like what feels like a clever idea, and then I'll try to come up with a way to like illustrate that visually.
And are those thoughts that come to you when you're out on your walk or something? All of a sudden,
A lot of the time, yeah.
yeah.
Running was always really helpful, even though I hate running and I'm really bad at it.
Mm-hmm.
Something about, EMDR, it's like a thing with the bilateral stimulation of your brain.
Huh.
I'm going to butcher this, but basically crossing the cerebellum, which is sort of the layer in between the two hemispheres of your brain, does something to help with your like self-regulation. So it's a very, very mainstream thing that's used in trauma therapy. I guess it sounds kind of out there, but it's like super mainstream in psychology. As part of trauma therapy, your therapist will have you talk through the event that was upsetting to you, and then give you some form of stimulation, either flashing lights or something like that, and a particular rhythm on either side of your field of vision. And it's more like a hack than an actual like form of therapy, because you're not really processing your feelings. It's very neurologically oriented. But anything that's bilateral kind of does that. And when I run, because I have some joint problems and I'm just like very sloppy physically, I guess I do probably more side to side than most people do, because I'm like flailing around. So I find it's really almost hypnotic to go, flailing and jogging. Again, even though I physically hate it, it's like really uncomfortable. But I always get a lot of good thoughts that are not from like normal, linear, like got to do some fundraising kind of that sort of headspace. It's really very helpful for making that shift. It's not happening now while it's hot. But I'll pick it back up once it cools off, and it's always really good for me.
That's interesting. Like you're opening up your creative brain or something, or something's. Yeah, I don't know. That's I don't know. I wish I could access that.
I also do meditation, and again, that's not something where I like look forward to doing it, but it's really helpful for being able to close this window and I don't know, be more present for stuff that it feels like my ego and doesn't really have a hand in, and like letting those things kind of roll around and take a shape. Yeah, both of those practices take a lot of time that since the pandemic I haven't had at my hands much, but and again, they're not fun, but I think they're really helpful.
Do you have a sketchbook with a bunch of ideas for?
Kept it since the pandemic started, but yeah, definitely.
Oh, that's cool.
Sometimes actually it's really like one time in maybe 30 when I'd be meditating, I'd have something I called it idea-ria in my mind, which is like right after I'd come out, I would have just a mess of ideas come out of I'd have to get it down as fast as I could because it would all be gone after that. And then later I could go back to that and pick out useful things from it.
Oh, wow.
And it would almost all be good too.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you keep a journal?
I don't.
Oh, yeah. That's something I started doing in the beginning of this year. And then once quarantine started happening, and my days were just so boring that I just gave up even doing it.
I feel like that's probably the best time. You're going to like go Walden and forget the bullshit. No one wants to hear about what you did at Kmart. I don't know. Not like that's for publication, but like you're not gonna like get to the good stuff if you're just talking your diary. They gave me the wrong change, and then I wanted to say something, but I was embarrassed.
Right. I know. I just was like, forget it. And my productivity kind of started to slouch a little bit because it's like, there's all this like crazy uncertainty in the world and all, I was just like, I can't, I would wake up and if I didn't have to do something, I just wouldn't do it. And that was one of the things I just threw away,
Well, having the kids definitely puts that off the window. I wonder what that's like coming to journaling after having done autobiocomics, where it's you're telling it your story, or at least a version of you or a character of you, with the idea that it's for someone else to see, versus then later coming to tell your story for yourself.
Well, my autobiocomics aren't really, I mean, it's like, there's so much fake stuff mixed in there, like, it's a heightened version of who I actually am. I draw myself as like kind of more nebbishy.
Like a character.
Yeah. I get startled easily in my cartoon version and stuff like that. My journal is more of like a list of things that happened that day, so I can remember like, oh yeah, that I went and did this, I took care of that, or whatever. Do you read comics still? Are you like,
sometimes.
What comic are you reading now?
I was thinking like, no one's gonna ask me some stuff about the scene, and I'm really out of the loop because I only like socialize with comics people when I'm at shows, and I don't really keep up with what's going on. I get comics mostly through the library, so it's a little bit depends, like the latest on what's there. What was the last one I read? Was it Portrait of a Drunk, maybe? That was a fun one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I haven't read that one yet, but I like that artist a lot.
Yeah. And I think this is the first time he teamed up with those writers, or the writer. So that was a good one. What else? I don't know. What am I reading right now? I just got a pile in from Fantagraphics.
Nice.
Yeah, I did one of those diary comics, so you get a few freebies, which I got them a while back, but I'm just working my way through them now. I'm trying to read more like foreign comics, just because I feel like I've sort of got a grip on what's going on in America, but there's so many completely different other like languages, visual languages and ways of like using comics that are really foreign to me, because I just hadn't like I never read manga or anything like that. Seems super adolescent. I was actually, and then I was like reading Bubbles. I was like, this guy sounds like makes it sound pretty good. Maybe I'll give it a try.
That's a great zine, isn't it?
A really great zine, yeah. I'm amazed at the guys at Brian's output, because he puts them out really fast, and they're so jam. Like every part of every page is just full of stuff.
Yeah, I asked him to come on the YouTube channel. He said no. So
interesting.
But you just have squirrels bouncing around all over the place, and they're really obnoxious. And so the lady that used to live in our house was this old woman, and she used to trap the squirrels and drown them in the bathtub.
What?
Yeah.
Wow. Something like that happened to me when I lived in New York City. You just live like an animal. And this is when I was in Manhattan, so it was especially bad. This tiny little place, and we got rats that would like chew through the wall like a hole, and then go into the kitchen. So I went to the pest control place and like, hey, I need a rat trap. So they gave me one of those ones that's like a cage, not like a guillotine. So I caught the rat, and I'm like, awesome, cool, okay. So I went back to the place. I'm like, hey, I caught the rat. And they're like, good job. And I'm like, now what? And they're like, what do you mean? I'm like, what? What do I do with this? They're like, well, you should probably kill it. Fill your bathtub up with water and drop it in there. That's my bathtub. I take a bath in there with like candles and a bath bomb and stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
Did you drown it?
See, I would never like. This is why I should not be eating meat, because I don't want to cause anything pain. I took the rat. I was going to throw it in the Hudson, I didn't live too far from the river. So I started walking there. Then I realized I was walking down the street with like a feral rat in a cage, and it was turning a couple of heads. And then I also started to feel really bad for it. So I just stopped a few blocks away and like opened it. Like, be free. And I watched it go directly back to my house.
Oh, shit. I thought you were going to like bash it in the head with a hammer or something.
Oh God, no, I had to do that the other day for, I was walking with my kids. My little girl's like, look, Mommy, a possum. He's so nice. He's resting in the grass and waving his arms and legs. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be bad. It went over. Of course, it had been hit by a car and like dragged itself off to the median. And there are a bunch of people doing construction. They're like, hey, yo, back up. There's a dead possum there. I'm like, oh, it's not quite dead. So I went home. And a few hours later, I went back to check, and it was still, All right. So I went and I got, I brought it back with me, and the construction guys are all like, ew. So I was like, I'm gonna kill it. I don't have a gun I can shoot it with, and I don't want to, just like smash its skull. So I'll drown it. I thought about putting it in the freezer, but it's just really big, and all we eat's inside 2 bags.
Yeah.
Or 3. But it's like every inch is frozen pizza. That's all we eat. So that wasn't going to happen. So I filled up a really big like drum of water and like put it in. And it was like barely breathing. But the second it got in the water, it knew like, game over, man. So it starts like kind of half spine smashed, like swimming around and hissing. So trying to get a shovel and like hold it down there. I'm like, I'm really sorry, man.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I felt so bad for it. I felt like I did the right thing because it keeps, slowly dying, internal bleeding in the sun.
Yeah.
Injection site, but I felt I was trying to do right by the little dude. It didn't quite work out that way.
Yeah, I was picking up sticks in the backyard the other day, and a little baby squirrel fell out of the tree.
Oh my God, I've never seen a baby squirrel. Does it look like a hamster?
Yeah, basically it's pink, and it had like a big blue eyeball. It was like,
oh yeah. It was a what do they call them?
I don't know. It was creepy. That's what I called it.
Yeah, it was a gummy.
I was like, oh! I got like a little freaked out. I didn't know what to do with it. What's that?
Did you put it back?
No, it's a tall tree, so it fell out of its nest, and maybe the parents pushed it. I don't even understand what happened, and so it was dying. It was just like, so I just like left it there, and then I'm sure something picked it up.
I'm sure something did pick it up
because it's pretty wild. We have a bunch of feral cats in our neighborhood too.
So do we.
Yeah, but I love cats, so like I just think they're really cute, and we can't own a cat, so. When I see them in the neighborhood, I'm like, oh, I just like pet it and stuff.
Is that because of allergies? Or?
Yeah, Amy's allergic to cats. Mm-hmm. So I just enjoy petting them. But they're, they like clean up the neighborhood basically, they're.
Yeah, we don't have any mice or rats or pigeons or anything like that. That was because of Katrina, actually. People would skip town, but the cat was nowhere to be found, or various other reasons. So the cats like took over the town because you weren't allowed to return even when people were like dying to go back and like take care of their house. It was kind of a terrible thing. So there were like months when the city was just whoever had stayed, with their shotgun across their lap, and then like cats and, pit bulls were the pit bull capital of the country. And there was these tons of the cats, and a lot of the dogs wound up dying, but the cats, they're like this close to being wild animals, at the best of times. So they just, took off and formed like a colony.
Wow, that's cool. It's like Heathcliff, that cartoon all that.
Yes, yeah, just like that, exactly.
I don't know if you do this, but like I always fantasize about going back to school, because it gets really stressful. Like this is my job. Like comics, my whole like life and income depends on my comics and stuff. So that can be very stressful sometimes because you're not sure what the fuck the future is going to be. Like, it's all like apocalypse, you know, stuff going on right now. So
yeah. Well, and it's a popularity thing too. You know, you're even if you're not working to keep your finger on the pulse and like appeal to people's tastes, you know, if suddenly you wake up and, you know, your thing is passe, or, you know, there's something else that's eclipsed it, that's very, very different than having a practical, this is why I can't quit my day job ever.
Well, I think I was blessed by I was never like a hip cartoonist. So like I won't have like a passe thing like or something. You know, like is going to look very old fashioned to like Generation Z or something. But he was at one time, I remember when came out, like his comics started coming out, and
I remember that.
Everybody was ripping him off. It's like, oh my God, everybody immediately changed their style to look more like that.
Yeah.
And, he was like the hottest cartoonist. But yeah, that kind of goes away. But I'm lucky that like I've just been like through word of mouth gathering up readers over the past 10 years or something. And I think that's the better way to go for longevity, because if you can gather up people like that, they'll usually stick with you. I think, I don't know. If you can get 1,000 people that are willing to buy anything you do, I think you'll be okay. You know? Thank you. All right.
All right. Bye.
Bye.